Okay, we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You want to take the roll call?
Mike Hobson,
Here.
Marilyn Ertley,
Here.
Don Bandy,
Here.
Jen Schweddy,
Here,
Jessica Stickles,
Here.
Michelle Bly,
Here.
and Deborah Nelson has an excused absence.
And we can hear everybody, so that's great.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Question?
Those in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we have a special guest this evening to start out with. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Regina Gray from the Snohomish County Health District. I hear her voice every week on the calls, so it's nice to see the face.
That is true, although I haven't done the call in a little while now. Let's see, would you like me to share my screen to see the slides, or are you guys going to handle that on your end?
We'll make it so you can share your screen.
Okay.
Should be able to share now.
Okay, let's. Try this one and see if I can do that. There. Okay, can you see my slides properly? Okay. All right, well, hello everyone. As the mayor said, my name is Regina Gray. I am the Environmental Health Director at the Snohomish Health District. I'm very happy to be here with you today. I'm hoping to give you all a quick update on what the Health District has been doing in 2020 and what our plans are for 2021. First and foremost, of course, is the COVID-19 response. As you know, I think it is an ever-changing situation. Guidance on this and news on this changes very often. So we really encourage everybody to check out our website and follow us on social media just to stay up to date with the latest. This graph shows the daily case counts in Snohomish County. We had a strong first wave that peaked in mid to late March, and we are experiencing a second wave that really came about in mid-July, and it's been very slow to taper off. This graph shows the rolling 2-week case rate. It's a little bit easier to see trends in cases over time when you're looking at it this way. This is a metric that we need to report to the state. The target for this metric is actually less than 25 cases per 100,000 residents in a rolling 2-week period. As you can see, we are well above that. And actually this graph is a touch behind. The latest number that I saw actually put our 2-week case rate at almost 72. So we are definitely heading back up in the wrong direction. We've also recently started producing some new maps, and these show where the concentrations of cases are relative to the geography of the county. They're available every 2 weeks on our website, and these are examples from the time period of September 13th through 26th. It's really no surprise when you look at these that the highest concentrations of cases are where the highest concentrations of people live in our county. That's been pretty consistent. Every week we produce a weekly report. This is something that initially we had to provide to the state, kind of relative to where we are with all of the metrics that we're supposed to be measuring. The weekly report is really comprehensive. There's a lot in it. It's really kind of hard to digest, but the good news is that we also produce a weekly snapshot that we put on our website on the case counts page. It's much easier to digest and much easier to read. So if you're ever wondering where we sit, definitely take a look at that. The key priorities that we've been focusing on lately related to the COVID response are really testing capacity and case investigations. We were lucky to get some CARES Act dollars, and that's helped us hire about 50 new case investigators, and we've been able to really stay on top of contact tracing that way. We've also nearly doubled our testing capacity in the past month, and that's really at our SHD testing site. We've been also focusing on some additional testing efforts with some underserved communities in the county as well. We've also been focusing on long-term care facilities and also cases associated with places of employment, because we've been seeing an uptick in outbreaks associated with both of those scenarios. So, of course, even though COVID is a massive undertaking and it's hogging a lot of our time and effort, life goes on in other areas as well, and we're continuing our work in other areas in our communities. We're still out and about doing food safety inspections, responding to complaints, performing inspections related to safe environments, and also on-site septic applications. Arlington has 180 food permits within its city limits, which require approximately 250 inspections each year. You also have a number of public pools, and we're starting to open back up on those. And as schools open back up, we're also doing environmental health inspections there as well. So you see us come up your way pretty often. In fact, I asked my staff recently for any stories or anecdotes that they have about Arlington, and Brent, who is the food safety inspector who handles the district that Arlington is in, told me a funny story about when he was first assigned to the district. He said, in the first 6 months, I saw a bear cross the road and stop traffic, a tree fell 50 feet in front of me and blocked the road, and a seagull died midair, bounced off the top of a semi-truck and hit my windshield. I thought these were all bad omens, but it's been quite the opposite. Business owners want to do the right thing, and I've had good experiences. So Brent's a really nice guy, and he's very fond of Arlington as well. Let's see, recently we provided some of these resources for local businesses. You guys probably should have gotten a nice box in the mail that had several of these posters and also the floor stickers in them. These are for you to distribute to businesses that you have in your city. I think it's pretty common in these times. Something that we've really been grappling with lately is how to do research outreach, when all of our typical modes for that kind of thing, things like fairs and schools and community groups, those things have all not been happening and have all been off limits. So we're really exploring ways to engage with the community and looking at virtual ways instead. Moving forward into 2021, obviously we'll be continuing all of our important work in the community, things like communicable diseases, food safety, permit applications, but we will also be focusing on the goals that we outlined in our strategic plan. The Board of Health adopted a strategic plan in 2020. You can find a copy on the website if you're interested. But we'll really be focusing next year on some of these goals to improve our organization. I'm sure everybody is watching their budget very closely right now. We are obviously doing the same thing. Our 2020 budget was fully balanced at $16.75 million, which included 113 permanent staff. We are in the throes of working on our 2021 budget process right now. Per capita contributions from cities definitely help. They fund things that are typically not covered by other funding sources. I was encouraged to point out to all of you that if there are things that you are particularly interested in, things that you would like us to focus on in your community, we can customize your interlocal to meet your specific community's needs. Something else that we will be working on in 2021 is the establishment of a public health foundation. And I'm happy to say that the Board of Health recently approved this, and we are currently recruiting new board members for that foundation right now. So if you know anybody that would like to be part of that foundation, we'd love to hear that. The purpose of the foundation really is to help us gain access to funding sources like grants that we wouldn't have qualified for as a government agency. It just gives us another avenue. There's a lot of information on our website and on our social media. We've got a blog, we have newsletters, and we have lots of other ways to keep in touch and stay informed, not only just about COVID, but about everything else that we are doing as well. So with that, those are my slides. I can be available to answer questions if you guys have that kind of time.
Do you want to stop sharing your screen and I can see if the council members have any questions for you?
I can. There, how's that?
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Regina? Jan?
Sorry, let me unmute. I probably know the answer to this, but when our schools get started and they're going to do it on a slow process and everything, the schools are required to turn information into you if they have somebody that's infected, right?
So we will know that anyway, but we definitely, as I understand it, yes, we need to know that information. And we actually have an entire team dedicated to schools and childcare. That team is headed up by our Healthy Communities lead, Carrie Parker, and we've got several case investigators that are specifically dedicated to schools. So definitely tell us about that, and we will work on making sure that we notify people that need to be notified.
Okay, thank you.
Regina, you mentioned that our case numbers are going up again. Can you fill us in on what our hospitalization rates are or what's happening there?
Oh, good question. I don't have that detail right off the top of my head, but as I understand it, we're still within our comfort zone for hospitalization. So we're not concerned as of yet with those numbers.
Anybody else have any questions? Regina? We just want to send our thanks from the city of Arlington for all the work that the health district has done so admirably through this pandemic, and the amount of information that you send us that helps us keep not only our council members, but our community informed of what to do. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, well, then with that, I will say goodbye. Thank you so much. Let me know if there's anything I can help you with after this.
Okay, thank you, Regina. Wendy, some of the youth council may want to come in for this portion. There's none of them here. Okay. So we'll move into our workshop items this evening. And first up is the appointment of the Youth Council, Sarah Lopez.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. So I'm bringing forward tonight our recommendations for the Arlington Youth Council 2020 and 2021 session. We are recommending reappointing 4 students from last year: Anijah Reed, Grace Inez, Laura Mino, and Arstella Heaton. We interviewed 11 applicants for the other 3 positions, and we are recommending Savannah Soltero, Jenna Eastap, and Taylor Helly as the new members. Also included in the packet a list of projects that the Youth Council has completed since 2026. So next week, we invited the Youth Council to come in and introduce himself on Zoom. So we'll hear back how many will be here next week.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? It was great to have so many kids to interview this year. Without the sports and everything, there was a large pool that were interested, and we selected 3 great candidates who I think will serve very well. All right, thank you, Sarah.
Welcome.
Next up, we have the replacement of the access control and camera system for the police department. Brian Terry.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. Before you this evening is a request for funding, additional funding to replace an outdated access control system. This system is in the police department and is a critical system as most of the doors are controlled through that system and our officers carry prox cards to gain access. We hoped it would make it through the year, but it's showing signs of failing and is on an operating system that is out of life. The current system infrastructure is original when the building was constructed, so it is fairly old. Working with the vendor Verkada and the reseller McKinstry, we were able to secure some good pricing. I was able to secure that pricing using some available funds from the fiber feasibility study that we've currently put on hold. I'm coming before you tonight to ask for the remaining portion of the cost of the system. The total cost of the system is $65,183.24, and the remaining for your consideration is $40,813.24. I've verified with finance that there's available funding for this purchase. The equipment is available to purchase off of the PEPM contract, and the vendors are on the Small Works roster. This will provide a cloud-based camera system and access control system for 10 years, and we'll make sure that it's incorporated into the equipment replacement plan so that moving forward, when the system is end of life, we'll have funds available for that. So I welcome any questions that you may have.
Jessica?
Yeah, so you said Kristen said the funding, or excuse me, the money is available in the budget. Is that in the IT capital budget?
No, it's in the program development fund.
Program development fund. What department is that under?
I think isn't it a citywide?
Administrative number.
Yeah.
Admin. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Brian? Marilyn?
I just think it's pretty important that we do this. It seems like we don't want faulty equipment with our police department.
So
So,
we want him to have access to the building.
exactly. And so I think since we do have funding for it, I see no reason why we wouldn't want to move forward with it.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a road mitigation agreement, the renewal with Snohomish County. Jim Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. This is more of a housekeeping item. When the county installed when Snohomish County installed their North County Refuse and Transfer Station, the city and the county sat down and understood that there would be some impacts to our roads due to all the tonnage of garbage in and out of the facility. In 1992, they came up with an agreement that they would pay a mitigation fee based on the amount of tonnage that is hauled out of the transfer station. This mitigation agreement gets updated every 5 years. Before you is a copy of the agreement. It has been reviewed by the city attorney, and I am offering it for your review and for the next 5 years. We average approximately $60,000 a year in mitigation payments, and these payments are deposited into the street account where they go back in investments into our road system.
Are there any questions from the council? Jan and then Dawn.
Okay, I just have one. Since we've been doing this since 1992, how often have those particular roads have to be redone? I mean, I know that we've got semis going on all of our roads throughout the city, but with the waste trucks are so huge. But the ones that you indicated on the map, I was just curious how often you've had to go back and redo them.
Those roads, since I've been, so I don't know before I've been here, but since I've been here and since we've implemented our pavement preservation program, quite a few of the roads that the trucks travel on, the identified roads, have already been resurfaced and updated. That they include 69th, 59th Avenue, and 67th Avenue Phase 3.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, my question would be as far as the tonnage. You say the 60,000, it sounds like the 60,000 has been like the average price for every year on this thing.
That was the average price over the past 3 years.
Yeah, so my question would be is, where's the tonnage rate? Have any idea of what kind of tonnage increase has been happening year by year?
I do have that information. I do not have that with me. I can give you the rates that or the total tonnage. I get reports from the county. I don't have them with me right now. I
Okay,
can
I'm
send
just
them
curious.
to you.
I'm just curious on like an annual, how much. I know it's probably increasing every year.
It is. It's been leveling off over the past couple of years, but yes, it has been increasing every year.
Okay.
And Don, I will send you a copy. I'll pull the charts together and I'll send you a copy of the tonnage over the past couple of years.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Jim? All right, thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
So next up, we have a notice of planned final action for eminent domain proceedings. Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm actually standing in for Steve on this item tonight because he had a conflict, and I agreed to cover a couple of his items. This, as you're aware, on the 204th and Olympic roundabout, council has already taken action to approve purchase a right-of-way on 3 of the 4 corners for that roundabout. We need right-of-way on all 4 corners. The northeast corner, our negotiator has been negotiating right-of-way with that property owner along with the other corners. We understood and thought that things were going well and that they had reached an agreement on a fair market price on it, and then it kind of went cold. We didn't hear anything for several weeks from the property owner and weren't quite sure the direction it was going. As you know, this project's already started, so under a tight timeline. So Steve prepared this in preparation if we needed it. We believe at this time that we're back on track and that this probably won't be needed. Although if it does fall off again, we will need permission for eminent domain so that council can continue forward with that. Happy to answer any questions.
Don.
Just quick question. Is this the AutoZone corner?
Yes.
So is there, what is it, the sidewalk area up to their building, or what
yeah,
are we?
It's really, there's a sidewalk walking trail on that side, and it encroaches on their property. So it's not a huge amount of property that we need. You know, the building sits fairly close to the street as is. So, but we do need some in that corner to accommodate the pedestrian pathways.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking there, because there's not much there usable property as there is.
No,
Okay.
there's not.
Michelle?
I mean, I'm just curious, are they just not responding, or they just can't be bothered, or do they not want to cooperate?
I don't know the reasoning behind it.
Okay.
All I know is that it just went cold. They weren't returning phone calls.
Right.
But as I understand, just in the last few days that we've picked back up. So I'm hopeful that we don't need this, that we've settled or can settle between now and next week.
All right, thank you.
So this won't be on next week's council meeting if a settlement of agreement is reached
Right. We'll pull it.
in the next week. And if it comes back, then the council will know we didn't reach agreement. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Mhm.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, next up is the Regional Fire Authority Planning Document Review. Also you, Paul.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about this Friday at the retreat, but we have the planning document that went out along with a memo from the planners that were 2 council members, Jessica Stickles and Marilyn Ertley, and 2 commissioners from North County who've been working on this since the first of the year. The committee's met 15 times. They brought back monthly updates to both commission and the council as we've gone through this. And the report that's in your packet is kind of the culmination of all the work that they've done over since the beginning of the year. I just wanted to go over just at a high level tonight some of the things that they worked through, and a lot of this is repeat because like I said, we've done monthly updates, and so you've heard this as we've gone through. But the areas of focus that the committee worked on was boundaries. It was decided and in the plan that new boundaries would incorporate the entire city limits of Arlington, along with the existing North County Regional Fire Authority area. The committee looked at a 7-year financial model. They wanted to look and make sure that the formation of the RFA was financially feasible and that there was sufficient funds to be able to support the addition of Arlington area. And the 7-year model did work, and they are financially feasible. The committee looked at governance and settled on a government structure. The current commission has 7 seats. 6 of them are full right now. 1 is vacant in anticipation of the annexation. The governance model will increase the seats to 9, adding 2 more Arlington districted seats, which will be, so it'll be a 9-member board initially, and then we'll reduce back to a 7-member board over time with the following seats. So Arlington will have 2 districted seats. The districts will be set up based on population. The Fire Authority will have 3 districted seats, so there'll be a total of 5 districted seats, and then there'll be 2 at-large positions that can come from anywhere in the district, which would include the city limits of Arlington. The committee went over organizational structure. All Arlington personnel will be brought into employment with the RFA, so we're not looking at replacing or displacing any current employees. The committee reviewed the equipment and with the help of staff determined fair market value so that the RFA will credit the city for equipment that will be turned over to the RFA. That's such as the rolling stock, the fire equipment, fire engines, ambulance, and things like that. Station 46 will remain a city facility. The RFA will use it until a replacement station is constructed. In the meantime, the RFA will assume all maintenance, repairs, and utilities on Station 46. Station 48 will be transferred to the RFA. The RFA will assume the debt service on Station 48 and will negotiate a land lease with the airport for the property that the station sits on. Arlington will transfer some funds to the RFA to cover the outstanding liabilities that would go over to the fire station and an equalization of the reserve funds. And I'll have a better illustration of that when we meet at the next workshop to go over this. We'll also do independent interlocal agreements for all of the services that will still be intermixed, such as the city will still need fire marshal services, particularly for review of our permits. And so that's an item that we will contract with North County for. We've also talked about some joint IT services that Arlington could supply the RFA and emergency management. So that's kind of a quick overview of the items that are in the plan. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure that Jessica and Marilyn can also add to any questions you have.
Go ahead, Jan, and then Mike.
On page 9 about the airport, right now the airport pays the city for fire services. So will they be paying North County like the same amount of money for the airport?
Well, we're working on what that is that the flight line portion of the airport, where there is no property tax collected, the airport would pay North County a negotiated fee to provide fire service on the flight line. So it'd be different than the way we have it set up now, but they would the airport would contract with them for fire service.
Okay, and you mentioned, and on page 12, about the reserves, and you said that would be settled later on, because I noticed there were two options. One was $1 million and the other was 1.7 million. So that's something that's still being decided?
That's in our court, and all I meant by that is that just because we have so much to go over, I'm trying to split it up so that we have a little bit on each workshop. So Kristen and I will put together some visual aids that'll help explain that and walk through that, and we'll do that as a section at the next workshop.
Okay, thank you.
This month. So we split this up we have a little bit at the retreat Friday, the workshop tonight, and then the second workshop in October, so that we have plenty of time for council to be able to absorb this. It is such a big item to go over.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Mike. Oh, you're on mute. Still muted.
Did I get it?
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, sorry. I have a question on the EMS piece of it. Right now, the citizens are paying $15 a month utility fee for that, and it's going to go up to $30 shortly. And so I'm wondering, in this new arrangement with the RF, what is it, RF something? Anyway, I'm just wondering if what's the cost going to be to the citizens for the EMS piece once this is approved, assuming that it is approved?
I don't have it with me tonight, but if you look in your packet from Friday, there's a chart that's like page 2 of the RFA presentation, and it shows you the 2020, 2021 proposed, and then the 2 options for 2022 as cost to the citizens. And the example is a $400,000 house. And so it gives you what the cost per thousand would be and the total for each scenario. So if the annexation is approved, then the ambulance utility fee and the city EMS levy go away. The community then pays into the RFA. So they would be paying their EMS levy to the RFA, not to the city.
But at this point, we don't know what that amount would be.
We're estimating it's 35 cents per thousand, and ours is about 31 cents per thousand, if I remember correctly from Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Jessica or Marilyn, did you want to add anything in? Go ahead, Marilyn.
Well, are you okay, Jessica? Or? Yeah. I just wanted to say that I really appreciated the entire experience of working with North County. They were so pleasant, agreeable. Our minds are on the same page. It's almost like it just seems like it's meant to be. And so, and there's a trend in the state and the country actually to go into a fire district rather than individual cities paying for all this, because it doesn't pencil out. And so, and I have worked in other situations with entities, and it wasn't quite as pleasant. And so it just seems like the right path. And so I just wanted to share that. And I thank Jessica and Paul and the whole committee for working together so well. So I just wanted to say that.
Jessica, did you want to add anything?
No, I agree with Marilyn. It went quite well. It was nice that they had done a recent merge with Stanwood, so they knew a lot of the questions to ask, and they were really open to the fact that we wanted to keep the identity. Like, it wasn't even, they totally agreed with that. So it was really a pleasant experience.
We appreciate you guys spending all that time in those 22 meetings, I think it was, plowing through these pages of details.
Yeah. Now this item will not come back to you next week for action. It'll be on the second workshop again this month for further discussion. Then it will come back to you at the November 2nd regular council meeting for action. And the 2 points of action that you'll be asked to take is approval of this plan. So you have to approve the plan as the committee put it together. And then we'll have to approve a resolution that places the annexation on the ballot for voters' consideration in February.
Do we have any idea what it will cost us just to run it? I mean, I'm totally for this, don't get me wrong, but I was just curious about because we need to get a whole lot of information out to the citizens. And the more we get out, the better chance we have of it passing.
So it cost us for the election? Or is
Yeah,
that
so, well, to get the information out to every one of the voting citizens so that they know everything.
Yeah,
and
we've
be able to
already
make
started
choice.
the communication piece to educate just to supply the information to the public and help educate them on the RFA. So that's already begun, and we have a PR firm that's helping us with that.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
Carolyn?
I just wanted to say to Jan's question about the how to pay our debt, with the RFA, they don't care how we choose to pay. It's all up to us. They're just totally agreeable to whatever plan A or plan B that we take. So it's all in our court. We get to decide. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that one? Move to the next item, which is an update of the council rules and procedures. And again, I'll turn it over to Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. Last spring, one of the retreats that we had, council did a little bit of work on the code of ethics, particularly referencing section 1.7, which has to do with remote access to meetings. At the time, we made the language changes that are reflected in the material that's in your packet, and council desired bringing it back in the fall to relook at it and see if we wanted to update that language. The language regarding remote access certainly hasn't been a priority because with COVID, we don't have no other choice but to remote access. Once COVID is over with, and we can go back to face-to-face meetings, if council desires to have more detail or different parameters in section 1.7 to allow for some flexibility in remote access, this is what the discussion's about. So
Previously, we've had council member Nelson mention to us she'd like to see this stay in as a way that council can throughout the year, in case they're on vacation or at a business conference or something, be able to participate in council meetings with maybe with a limited number of times per year for the council to decide. And then also wanted to take into consideration illness or other things that might not allow a council member to attend a meeting in person. We've tested the remote access. We see that you all are getting proficient on using the video coverage. And with the new video system we have here, we think that the citizens will still be able to see your faces while you engage in their business, whether you're physically in the council chambers or not. Jessica, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I remember in that conversation that we discussed not having this be an option for vacation, but yes to emergencies or work travel, conferences type of thing. That way it didn't end up being an alternative. It was more of an as needed or emergency.
I think people have talked to me about it both ways,
Yeah,
so it's up for the council to have that discussion and decide, and then we'll go Jan and then Marilyn.
You know, I agree with what Jessica's saying. I guess, and I'm not concerned about one single person who's on city council now. But if this goes into effect, then it's going to be council people down the road. And so I was wondering if there was a way that we could, I know it says relatively infrequent, that whether it is Paul or whether it's the mayor, that emergency or whatever the excuse is goes through someone to decide, so that we don't have someone who's abusing it, I guess is what I'm saying. And I would hate to put a number because I know that there could be exceptions. Somebody could have a, I don't know. I would just like it to be a little stronger. And maybe on vacations, and I know vacations aren't listed in there, but I don't know, I'd kind of like to have it a little stronger on how many times a year that they could go remotely.
I think I would like to see, I would make the suggestion that the permission run through the city administrator and not the mayor, and you can keep it completely non-political that way and give it to a full-time employee.
Okay.
Which would make more sense to me. Marilyn, you had your hand up.
Well, I just, I wish Deborah was here because she was very strong on this, but, you know, over the years, it's kind of changed the way we meet. And it used to be, you know, where you weren't meeting every single Monday of the year. And so since we do that and we're elected to represent the public, I think it's really important that we are there to represent the public at meetings. And everybody has a life, you know, where you may want to go out of town and take more than, you know, one meeting. I mean, if you miss a meeting, you miss it. But if you're on vacation, it's really hard to take a 1 week vacation a year or something. It just isn't realistic. And so to me, it helps with your whole, you know, not getting burned out and just being able to still, maybe you have a wedding come up from a family, or maybe you've got some stuff, you're not sick, but you've got something that really is important in your life that you want to participate in. So then you have to decide, do I want to go to my granddaughter's wedding, or do I want to go to a council workshop? And I feel like I was elected to go to that council workshop, but I really want to go to this wedding. And, you know, I know that when you're elected, it's a responsibility and you take that on. And, you know, but 4 years of no vacation on a Monday is a lot. So I wish that we could come up with something that, you know, works so people didn't abuse it. And, you know, what if you broke your leg, like, and had a cast and it was a blizzard out, and, you know, you wanted to go to the meeting, but it was almost life threatening. Does that count? Or, you know, it's really hard to come up with exact rules for something. So I don't know what the answer is, but I think that there should be some consideration for not having to be physically present every single Monday of every year, where you could, we see that Zoom works out quite nicely. It's not perfect, but occasionally I think it would be good. So, you know, I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I think that we should try to work something out so that there is that possibility and make it be so it's not easily abused.
I think since we haven't been able to meet in person and we've been forced to meet electronically, it's given us all an opportunity to be in a comfort zone. That'd probably be the only stronger language I'd like to see in it, is that an elected official would have to self-certify they weren't on medications or anything that would not make them have the full mental capacity for making decisions. I'd like to see language around that. Other than that, I think that we put this in under an emergency order, and I think I'm comfortable enough that we could move forward with it in a way that, you could find, you could always come back and change the parameters if you felt it got abusive or something, but to starting out at a place of good intention and trust, to see how your fellow council people are handling it. And I saw Jessica had her hand up, and I saw Dawn did. And Michelle, I wasn't sure if you right. Yeah, okay. So I'll go Jessica, Michelle, and then Dawn. I think that's the order I saw it.
Okay, so a couple points from it. It does say that we would need to give a 2 days notice, which would be tricky if it was an emergency or a sickness.
That's in order to be able to prepare for the remote access, to guarantee that we can set it up.
You could give more. It's just like less than 2 days would put a burden on the IT staff for setting it up.
I mean, if it's an emergency that comes up that you can't accommodate the 2 days, then we deal with it just like we do with any other absence. If we can remote in, we'll make it work. But what we're trying to do is make sure that IT has enough time to set up, because it'll mean having an IT staff present too, just like we are now, to be able to make the meeting work.
Okay, so the 2 days is just more of like, that's the guarantee to be able to do it. Okay.
He's not out of town so that we can accommodate it.
And also, can we make sure that it says video in and not call in? I think that's a totally different experience. If you just call in, you're not seeing who's in the room. You're not seeing facial expressions if citizens are speaking. I think it's important for it to be a video.
I agree with that. I think that's what the citizens want, is to see your faces. Michelle?
And then, I have stuff. A pretty common language for different organizations with this type of thing is no more than 3 consecutive. And I realize that doesn't cover the whole year, but it at least makes it so that somebody's not abusing it week after week. That's all.
Thank you. Michelle?
Yeah, I had a comment on the calling in. I don't think that's appropriate that someone just uses their phone to call in, that there does need to be a video and a face. And, I think that even though people are elected to a position, doesn't mean you can't take vacation. I don't feel like I can't take vacation. If I wanted to be gone for a week and needed a vacation day on a Monday, I certainly would do that and wouldn't feel compelled that I had to be present. You just study your packet and you're prepared. If you have any questions, you can ask somebody. So, I don't feel that in reading any of this. And I also feel that sometimes it's hard to give an exact number on, I do like your language, Jessica, the consecutive, not to be absent more than so many consecutive times or by video, or unless there was extreme circumstances. But I always think it's really difficult to pinpoint and give an exact number on how many absences or how many times a year you can do it. And I'm not sure. I get wanting to do that. Well, I don't know how you do that unless you just kind of let it play out, the policy. And if there's an issue, maybe council takes it up amongst each other, or not sure. I don't know what the answer is. I guess I'm just like everybody else. But I'm not sure that you can just give a specific number on how many times someone can do that. I don't know. That's just me.
Thank you. Don?
Yeah, no, I like this. I think the way the technology is changing daily and stuff, I like this, being able to connect via Zoom. And I think, like Marilyn says, sometimes you want to be out of state on on a vacation or business for your work or something, so you're out there, but you should be able to have the choice as a council member to represent the citizens of the state, even if it is remote. And I do like Jessica's 3 consecutive week idea too. There shouldn't be nothing more than that.
And it might just be happen the time you planned vacation or your grandkid was having a wedding out of town is something that was really important that you brought up to bring forward to council. And you would really want to be there to represent it. So I just think there's a number of reasons why it's good, and it's a modern way for us to do business and make sure we have a way that the council can participate in that as fairly as possible.
Yeah.
Marilyn, you had your hand back up. Go ahead, Marilyn.
I just wanted to say, as far as like Michelle said, it's okay to take a vacation, which it is good, but I always feel bad. A workshop you can catch up on and, you know, and read all the material, but sometimes there's critical votes. And so if you're not able to vote, I mean, it could make a big difference. And so I just think as far as representing the citizens, it's really a good idea to be, you know, right now, I very seldom have ever missed a council meeting in all the years because I just feel like it's important that I be there to vote for the people. So council meetings are really important, and workshops you can read up later or catch up on, and now we can watch YouTube. So, you know, get it up.
Deborah has given some input to both Paul and I, you know, for what she would like to see. Is everybody comfortable enough if we just then have Paul take what we've heard tonight and draft some language, or have Steve Feifel draft some language around it?
I think I got the general idea from the discussion where council's going. I think I can put something together to get us close to the bullseye. And
John, did you have another comment?
Just one other quick comment. As far as the 2-day notice, like I think Jessica was talking about, it's an emergency. Okay, I wake up this morning, gallbladder attack or whatever, I end up in the hospital. I mean, it's going to be tough to give you a 2-day notice on something like that. But I know I see out there on the agendas, we're giving the citizens up till like 9 a.m. the morning of our council meetings to send in the notifications if they would like to bring up subjects to the council. So, I mean, what's the difference on the 2-day notification versus the 9 a.m. Monday morning with the citizens?
You can work with that on a case-by-case basis, but really what we want to try and do is not overly burden any other employee or staff member, you know, to make this work. And so Brian will have to make sure somebody in his IT department is staffed in person, not remotely on a Monday, be able to be in the council chambers to physically set it up. And so for most, you know, for the traveling reasons or conferences or a wedding out of town, you're going to have advance notice. I think on emergencies, if we could take that on a case-by-case basis, if you notify the city administrator, he can easily find out if IT has the capability. They just may not. You have to be prepared for that answer, that there may not be capability on that short notice. I'm sure the staff will do everything they can to make it work, but there is a possibility that it wouldn't work. Does that sound fair, Brian? Brian's here, so I can ask him. He's shaking his head over there.
Mike had his hand up.
Mike?
Yeah, I generally agree with everything that I've been hearing here amongst the council. We are elected to make the meetings, and we're elected to make the votes. And I'm also I was very pleasantly surprised at how well the Zoom works. You know, I'm not terribly adept at such things, but it even kind of works for me some of the time. And so I think the Zoom does work, and I think we do have good meetings with it. But I definitely think that you know, we are elected to be at the meetings in one way or the other. So I don't like. I'm not really a fan of putting limitations on it. I think that the citizen, if the citizens recognize that there's a council member that's really abusing, that they're never here, they're always in Hawaii or someplace, and going to the meetings from Hawaii via Zoom. I think if that becomes known and gets out there, I think the citizens will take care of that. Otherwise, I think that Zoom works well enough that it should be pretty much free for people to use, and the citizens will can tell very quickly if somebody's abusing it. And maybe the other council members can let that council member know if they feel that there's an abuse taking place. That's all I have to say about it.
Thanks. That was very reasonable. You got what you need?
Yep, I do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh,
So go ahead, Jan.
We were finished with that, and I just had one other note on 1.3, the attendance and excused absences. Right now, when a council person isn't going to be there, Wendy reads the roll and then she says excused or unexcused or whatever. And the way this is reading on 1.3 is that the council has to vote on whether or not it's excused. So can that be clarified? Because we don't do that.
We can clarify that. It came up years back. Same question came up, and Steve's response to it is that when we read the roll call and you've approved the agenda, if basically if council does not say we disapprove of the absence, then it is an excused absence. We'll clarify that in there. I'm perfectly happy with doing that.
Okay, because it goes into pretty good detail that it has to go to council, and I'd rather it stay the way it is, if that's okay.
I think that's why Wendy calls out it's an excused absence, and then when council approves the agenda, they're approving that absence.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, maybe a little clearer.
That was Steve's point, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we ready to move on to the next item? So next up is the resolution to adopt a flag policy. Also, Paul.
Thank you.
Steve
Yes,
picked a good night to be off.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? I think he did that on purpose. This is the flag ordinance that we've been working on. You may recall, Steve asked to table this and bring it back to this workshop. So he had time to do some research and some on the language. I don't have a great deal of details on. He did do some research on some case law that had to do with this. I can tell you that the change that is in here was when our conversations reflected what we heard at the last workshop that we talked about this from council as kind of being in the middle of where we thought the majority landed. And it worked well with the case law. But 5.4 is the section that changed in this ordinance from the last one that you saw. 5.4 reads, no flags or banners other than the United States flag, the state flag, the city flag, and the MIA or POW MIA flag shall be flown outside or inside City of Arlington buildings or on city-owned light poles. Carolyn?
Well, I have a question on this. So the part that says banners, for one thing, I'm not sure about a banner. So we have all these art banners on the light poles, and we've got, you know, holders for them. And so there's two kind of light poles on Olympic. There's the really tall ones that kind of come out, and then there's the more decorative, shorter ones. And those have little triangular flags on them right now. I had never read this actually, and I read it today, so I went down there and looked. And so then there's art banners on the light pole. So who owns the light pole?
Those banners don't meet the definition the way I read 4.1, which is the definition of the banner.
Well, that's what I was reading, but it says a banner means a display similar in shape and size of a flag representative of an entity or organization other than a governmental jurisdiction. So what happens if they put an art banner up that says farmers market, or there's one that says the fly-in? you know, I mean, I don't want these to not be allowed. So it just kind of was confusing to me, the way that's worded. And so I'm fine with just flying the flags that were stated, you know, for the US flag and the state flag and the MIA POW flag. But I just don't want this to affect the banners that we currently put up, and we put banners across the street, and it's shaped. How do you, the shape of a flag? I mean, they're all shaped like flags. So
Rectangles, yeah.
What was that?
They're all rectangles.
Yeah.
And so I just think it should be worded so that it doesn't mean that we have to take down all the banners, you know, or not allow anyone to put any kind of a banner up that might be something that isn't government. It would be, what if there's like the 4th of July, the Duck Dash, we have Duck Dash banners up and stuff. How does that work?
We need clarification on that.
I'll get with Steve to clarify that, because it wasn't the intent. We
I
talked
know,
about that,
but
we still will have banners across the street that promote our events.
Okay, but
We
they're
still
not.
have the art banners that go on the poles.
The way I read this, it doesn't allow them, because they're other than governmental. Or are they? They're art, but they're, I don't know. Look confusing to me. I just want those banners to be able to stay up. So maybe Steve can look at it.
Yep, I sure can.
Okay. Yeah, 5.4. Yeah, it pretty much says no banners other than the United States flag and the state flag and the city flag and the POW MIA shall be flown outside or inside of the city of Arlington buildings or on city-owned light posts. So they're saying you can't fly anything except those on city-owned light posts.
The way I read it.
Looks like it to me. 5.4. So if that were the case, if we kept this, that means we have to take down every banner off of any light post in the city. That's not good.
I don't think anybody wants that.
No, I don't think, yeah.
Well,
That's not the intent.
can we make that not be there? Can we fix that?
Yeah, we'll have Steve work on that.
Okay, that would be perfect. Thank you. Okay.
Anybody else? No? Okay.
Like, Michelle just raised her hand.
Oh, Michelle?
Yeah. So I'm going to say what I've been saying. You know, I think this is a really well-written policy, and I actually would like to see an opportunity somewhere in here for discretion of maybe council, mayor and council on potentially flying other banners. I really would still like to see us be able to have the opportunity to fly the police and fire department banners like we've done the last 2 years. The red line and the blue line flags. I think our community has responded to that so positively in the past, and they've said so. So personally, I may be the only one that'll say this or that believes this way, but I'm going to say it anyways. I would like to see it noted in the policy that we have the ability to continue to fly those flags in recognition of police officers and firefighters that have lost their lives in line of duty. And truly, the flag is a symbol, and it's important to survivors because it represents the remembrance of law enforcement officers that have fallen in the line of duty. It doesn't have any other meaning. It just represents those that lost their lives. So maybe that's the last time I end up getting an opportunity to say that, but nonetheless, I'm going to speak out for that again.
Thank you. Marilyn?
Well, I totally agree with you, Michelle. I wish that we could do that. But I think the problem is in the interpretation of what the flag means. We agree on what that interpretation is. Unfortunately, there's people out there that don't agree with that. And so therein lies the problem. So I don't know if there's any way to clarify what that flag really means and then move forward that way. But right now it's like one group believes one thing and another group believes another thing. So how do you make it so everyone believes the same thing?
Jessica and then Michelle.
So I like Michelle's idea of adding in some sort of clause where if a banner idea is brought to the council, that we have the opportunity to vote on it. I mean, I can imagine that there could be different events that go on throughout the city, or something that's important to the school, that they just want to come to us and say, hey, is there any way possible for this day or for these 2 days we can fly this, we're supplying it. You know, we don't know what events are going to come up this year or any further years. So if there's something we could put in there where the banners specifically, because those are the non-government ones, so it's less confrontational, but that way we can have a little bit of leniency for if something comes up in the community, or if the environment changes.
But what I would tell you is if once council drafts a policy, if there's going to be any variation from that policy, it would have to go through council. But this gives staff and everybody else direction. You know, when those flags were donated to us, it didn't go through our normal procedures. It was sort of driven by staff. Then they just showed up on the streets, you know, up on our light poles. But it wouldn't preclude the council from amending the policy or making a variation to the policy, or you know, not using the policy, but it would have to be a specific council decision to do that.
And I understand what you mean by that, but changing a policy is a lot bigger deal than just doing a council vote because it's already allowed in the policy. So I'd rather see it in the policy.
We'll have to have Steve weigh in on this because we're getting way off track on it.
We're getting outside of Paul and my's comfort zone legally.
Yeah.
Don?
No, I agree with both Michelle and Jessica on this, that I think the policy, we should have the wording in the policy as we make it now, that has that verbiage that if somebody was to come forward with a flag that they would like us to fly, the council then has the opportunity to say, vote yes or no if they want that. But
we're going down, this was problematic, and I'm sorry that Steve isn't here to discuss it tonight. So I will have Steve address this. There was some issue with that. We talked about that 2 weeks ago, and we weren't able to go down that direction where it was kind of an open door for council to decide what flags could fly and what couldn't. So just allow me to have Steve address this, and we'll kind of pick this up again and try to address everybody's questions.
So it's Jan next, and then Michelle, and then Marilyn.
Okay, I totally agree with Marilyn. And my question right now is, we're not going to vote on this next Monday, correct?
I think you all need to hear from Steve at a workshop. And
right, yeah. So we can discuss, we can discuss this more later.
We'll pull it from next week's meeting and put it on the next workshop, or a workshop when Steve can be here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Michelle, and then Marilyn.
Yeah, you know, Marilyn, and I wish it could be like that too, without any issues or arguments. And I just, for me, I just don't feel like it's appropriate for someone, person or group to change the meaning of the symbolism for which a flag or banner stands for. Right. So if that's what it stands for, that's what it stands for. And for someone or anyone to interpret it or decide they're going to change the meaning of that, that's just not appropriate in my eyes. And it's not a good enough reason for us not to do what we've done for the past couple of years with such great support from our businesses and from our community members.
You want the last word, Marilyn?
Well, I agree with you, Michelle, but you know, we feel that way, that the meaning is what we believe it is. Well, they feel just as strongly that the meaning is what they believe. So therein lies the problem. So I just think that it would be challenging, and we need to either have some way to define what our meaning is and why we're doing it, because I think this got out of control from the beginning. I think these flags went up. No one knew what was going to happen, and now we're in the middle of all this. And I think with the council voting on everybody's proposal, whoever happens to want to fly them, you're going to run into discrimination issues and legal battles. So I think that's where Steve Pipel can guide us. But I think they'll say, well, you allowed these guys, why didn't you let us? And so it just opens the gate to a lot of problems. So where's Steve?
He couldn't be here this evening. And by the way, it's his birthday, so he shouldn't be here doing this today. So let's move on to the next item, and we'll pick up this discussion at the next workshop when we bring it forward. So our final item this evening is budget authority to use CARES Act funding for the airport vehicle. Dave Ryan. Oh, you're on mute, Dave.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm having to wear these silly headphones because I don't have any external speakers on this. So the airport was awarded some CARES Act funding in the amount of $69,000 from the FAA to be used for operational expenses. And the airport staff is requesting that City Council exercise budget authority for this grant. This will be for an ops vehicle. We have 3 ops vehicles. 2 of the 3 are getting pretty long in the tooth, and we're scheduled for replacement in the next year. So anyway, this would be a good way to use that money. It is eligible. And we're asking council for the budget authority to do that. And finance will be submit a budget amendment at the end of the year. This is a bit of a time sensitive item, as we have to, it's kind of one of those use it or lose it grants. So we need to use it by end of the month. I think the grant runs through about mid-November. So as long as we get our purchase orders in before then, we'll be fine. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes, ma'am.
I guess on the CARES Act, and the city got a lot of CARES money too. And I thought that it all had to be spent on something that was related to COVID. And replacing equipment that you would normally replace concerns me if we approve it.
Okay, this was an FAA grant. It was part of the CARES Act that Congress gave the FAA a certain amount of money. We had some earlier in the year that was used for capital improvements on the runway lighting project. That's what made up the 10% match, so that it was 100% covered. And this is, as I say, operational expenses. If you had to lay somebody off, if you needed a piece of equipment, this was to cover any of those kind of expenses.
David, correct. This is a different pot of money than what we discussed in the last several weeks. So
correct.
You have checked on it, and it is, buying the vehicle is an allowed use.
Absolutely.
Of the money.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure.
It's good to have. There's been so many pots of money in CARES funding, each one with different parameters.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that. I thought all CARES money was under the same direction, and I was a little concerned. But okay, if you know for sure that it's okay, I have no problem.
I know for sure.
One thing we know about all CARES funding is it has a deadline for the council to authorize using it, or it goes away. So
correct.
Any other questions or comments for Dave? Don?
Dave, I see in the description here, you're talking about 2 vehicles that need to be replaced, but down below you're saying 1 vehicle and then purchase aircraft recovery equipment. Is that right? The vehicle? Any
money left over, say the vehicle we buy costs $50,000 and the grant was for $69,000. We'd like to use the remainder for aircraft recovery equipment, possibly a new trailer or aircraft jacks, anything like that, that when an aircraft breaks a landing gear or anything, and we have to go out there and recover that aircraft. We really don't have much to do that with. What we have is pretty dated, so we'd like to use any leftover amount for that. Again, that's an operational expense and okay with the FAA.
Okay.
It's a good idea because right now, if you don't have the equipment, you have to use private companies.
Correct.
Forward, and so it's a good idea to have our own.
That's right.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, Paul, do we have any administrative report this evening?
Not this evening.
Okay. Do we have any comments from council members this evening? No? Okay, we had no members of the public that wish to speak this evening. Jessica, you were late. I'll get back to you. So we don't have any remarks from the public. Jessica, go ahead.
I was trying to find the name of the conference I was just at. So I attended the Edge of Amazing, a virtual health and well-being summit presented by Providence Institute for Healthier Communities. So I've gone to this a couple of years, and usually it's in person in Tulalip, and we do breakout sessions, and they have us go in and talk to different experts about different health areas of the community, the county. And so with this one, they did breakout sessions, but it was more breakout workshops in Zoom. And so I attended Getting Real about housing access and affordability, and also the new frontiers in the opioid epidemic. The biggest takeaway I got was, are we meeting the needs of the most disenfranchised in our community? And so I've got some good notes from that, and more to bring up in our different committee meetings.
Great. Did you attend the opening session where they talked about the metrics that they've been measured when Scott Forslund did his? So they've measured communities, and Arlington has been one of them, on 6 determinants of what makes health and well-being for the citizens in your community. And then they remeasure those every year to see if it's moving in the good direction or a bad direction. And what I think was interesting that came out of it is the one determinant that continues to move in the bad direction in Snohomish County is people experiencing discrimination, or what they feel is discrimination in their communities that makes them feel disenfranchised from services of government and nonprofit agencies and so forth. And so that one went through quite a spike this last year. Probably why we were talking about the flag issues, because people are feeling disenfranchised. And that's one of the 6 determinants that they look at for people to have a sense of health and well-being in their communities. So.
Yeah, and I will say too that as much as it's frustrating to have meetings and conferences in Zoom, it was nice to be able to take screenshots of the screen shares that were really interesting, charts and stuff. Kind of like to research, because a lot of times when they give stats, you want to know what the parameters were for those stats before you want to share them back out.
When they released them all on the web today, if you attended the conference and had an attendance code, you can go get all the materials today. Mike, go ahead.
I just want to say that I went to the very same thing and went to the same things that Jessica went to. And homelessness and health was another one that they talked quite a bit about that I went to. And Getting Real about the housing thing was very interesting. And our executive, Summers, was part of that presentation. And so I was very excited about it. This was the best one that I went to. I went to the last, at least one other one, and perhaps 2. And I really enjoyed this one, I think, most of all. And I don't know if it was the Zoom that did it, but I really enjoyed the day.
I'm glad you guys attended. I think it was well worth your time. Marilyn, did you have your hand up?
Oh, well, yeah. I just wanted to say that Wednesday, the Public Art Committee is meeting, and they have, I believe, 12 proposals. And so they'll be deciding on some new art pieces for Arlington and the airport, Smoky Point, and the whole area. So
look forward to that. Okay, so items that you may want to see on the consent agenda next week. I only had 2 that I thought were potential. Number 3, the road mitigation agreement renewal with PUD with Snohomish County and the Budget Authority for the CARES Act funding. I wasn't sure if you wanted to put that on consent agenda or not.
I agree with both of those.
Yeah, I do.
Any other ones you got? I thought the rest of them looked like they should. Of course, 2 of these items won't be on. So, all right. So number 3 and number 8.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. That's all.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Question?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.